Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome tonight to the Watcher's Prophecy News. We're on live right now. You better hang on. It's about to get real.
This is the life for me.
I love it when that happens. You know, you never know when disaster will strike. If you think the government will save you, think again. Want you to join me, Mars, on the brand new special editions here on TDC Radio of the Watcher's Prophecy News. We're on every Monday night, 7 p.m., just before Robbie Rob's One Long Minute. Well, let's see, I'm breaking up. I love a little technical difficulty, and it's always the devil trying to do something that I don't like. I don't know, ladies, if I'm still breaking up or not, but I'm here. I'm just going to eat the microphone for a little bit and see if that helps. But you never know about the things in life and how they're going to affect you. Y'all hold on just one whole minute real quick. I'm going to go solve this problem. I know what's the matter, and I've got to go solve it. So give me about 20 seconds, and we'll be right back. I hate it when this happens, but you never know. Just one of those things.
Last night put the heavy on me. Woke up and I'm feeling lonely. This world got a way of showing me. Some days it'll lift you up, some days it'll call you bluff. Man, most of my days I ain't got enough. And all I know is you're my only hope.
Oh yeah! When my feet hit the ground, you better know it. I'm coming at you. I got that little mess fixed. Alrighty. We're definitely back. So we can get through this now and get back to our main topic. I was able to solve that little solution. I had another device on in my house that was eating my bandwidth, and that's why I was breaking up a little bit, but should be a little better now. Tonight, we have several co-hosts with us with stories of paranormal things conspiracy lovers like to eat for lunch. Well, I thought I got this figured out. We'll try that, see if that's any better. Devil is definitely giving me a hard time tonight, but it's okay. I'm still a-coming. Not going to be able to shut me down. There's an outstanding divide that has occurred in the spirit realm recently. It's breaching out into our own providence. It may be just a short fall, I don't know. But our righteousness is as filthy rags There's Iran, Iraq, Venezuela, all kinds of news, Jerusalem gun grabs, red flag laws, no hide laws, deep state tyranny. Doesn't matter. Whatever's next for us Jesus freaks, true believers, has already been foretold. And you, my friends, are on a journey on this very narrow road. It's a little slippery. Need to stay very focused. Now, America has become soft. And our children are being taught things that even 50 years ago was such a sin as to hanging. People would get hanged for the things that are being taught in our schools today. Our churches are filled with false teachings and false disciples and folks who call themselves apostles and yet have no real understanding of the Jesus, the King of Peace. There's no sane leaders anymore. Parenting now a hassle instead of a duty. Education with the aim of making boys instead of growing men. It's become very bad. Because you can't any longer man up and become a God-given leaders and educate our young the way they once were, that our nation was built to men of renown that have saved us in many wars. But now the walls are cardboard and we've given up the idiots matches. We're going to suffer, we're going to burn, tyranny in high places, and unmatched moral decline, making our planet very ripe for this coming deception. And we fight a battle that is not just in the flesh. It's all beginning to unravel. See, America is in more danger of falling than at any time in our history. Even one match strike, as I've said many times. We're one election away from total anarchy. Their plans is to burn it all down. But I believe Bible prophecy predicts this very decline. From this point on, we believers really need to get serious, particularly in our prayer life. Pray against these hideous things. We're going to face a lot of discouragement, disillusionment, and persecution, especially that. In the time between now and the rapture, but don't be discouraged, don't be disillusioned here, because the coming turmoil, well, I don't know that I'm breaking up that bad, but I'm doing the best I can. Well, I hate it. Okay, we're going to try this setting. And see if that helped any at all. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. I'm eating this big giant blue snowball mic, and if I get it any closer to my mouth, I'm gonna look really funny. Just saying. But I believe that Bible prophecy is predicting these very things that we see in the news. And as I said, us believers must get very serious in our prayer life. We're going to face all these things very soon. Your voice should be heard right here on WTDC Radio. We want you to come and listen. And even through our little bitty technical difficulties, what's going on right now is we've got a really bad thunderstorm between me and the server, apparently. I just checked the radar, and it doesn't look that good. But storm or not, devil or not, we're here. You're going to get what God wants you to hear regardless, even if it's every other word. Now, be ready to share your faith. Be ready to share your faith with strangers now. We're at the point in our days in which hope is needed everywhere. There's a lot of people that need Jesus. Still have time to reap a great harvest of souls for God's kingdom. Want you, everyone, to do your part. All right, we're going to do an itty bitty break, and when we get back, our special guest I'm going to introduce, and some really fascinating stories that you just may want to listen to tonight. Things that go bump in the night real soon.
You never know when disaster will strike. Chances are you're not prepared. And if you think the government will save you, then you're in for a world of hurt. Don't get caught off guard. Order your official Watchers Go gear from the Watchers Prophecy Network today. Make sure you have the supplies needed to get you and your family to safety. Each bag contains all of the essentials, field tested and hand-picked by Mars of the Watchers Society. To order, call 1-800-424-8043. Don't wait. Call 1-800-424-8043 and order your Go gear today.
We are back, and there's some fascinating stuff about to go on tonight. We're going to get into every bit of this. I'm sorry we're having so many little baby issues with the station right now, but it's really not my doing. Some bad weather and thunderstorms and maybe a little devil in the mix, but we know where to stick him, and we're going to pray tonight that he stays stuck. Now, we're going to do things a little bit different. And for believers, some would say, oh, you're dabbling in things you're not supposed to. But I'm here to tell you, I'm fearless in Jesus, and I take on some tough stuff. And to do the TDC family last night, Rob broke some serious chains on his show. And many things changed today because of that very show that Rob did last night. And because of that in my own life, and I know in others that have come to me today, I want to thank you, Rob, our fearless leader, for your ministry, your faith, your challenge to the devil, and most importantly, your prayers. And the overpowering prayers that changes lives, because they do. We debunk the devil, and we tonight are attempting to show there is an invisible realm, a place where real spiritual battles are being fought. Those of you that are not convinced in Jesus Christ and do not believe in spiritual warfare, or that there are things, interrogatories, who, what, where, when, why, things that must contain spiritual content, battles in high places, things you cannot put in your pocket. Want everyone to know that we don't dabble, we do battles. Before we begin, it's important to note that we're not taking any stance on the absolute truth. It is the truth, or we're not going to put it here. Some of these stories you're about to hear are more fantastic than others, but some have confirmed details. However, Some of the details being accurate doesn't necessarily prove there was an alien encounter or ghost story. Want you to understand that we're telling you like it is. It's clear that most of these people believe these stories, including I. That doesn't make them always right, particularly by our young, so if they're listening, tune them out. But believe this, these stories are fascinating, and some of them are likely to give you chills. All right, ladies, I'm glad you're here. Everybody unmute yourself. Everybody unmute. Let's get this going and rocking tonight. I want to introduce you to our fantastic co-host. Everybody say hi, ladies. Go for it.
Who do you want to go first?
It doesn't matter.
I'm probably going to be taking a back seat and mostly listening because I think the others have better stories. I will be participating, though.
Well, Gloria, I tell you what,
yes.
Your story is going to be just as important as everybody else. And I see that we've got Jenny here, we've got Gloria here, we've got Marla here, we've got Pam here. Who else? Anybody else in the room I don't see?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you all, ladies, very much for being on the show with me tonight. It's a great honor. I did not know that I could have this many people with me, and it's
Speak up, Marla.
It's exceptional. All right, somebody say hello, because I'm thinking that you've all died on me. Yeah, we hear you fine, Pam. Say hi. What's shaking, Pam? Tell me about it. Have you got any great little story that you can give us tonight, Pam?
Well, I was just kind of looking up about things that spirits, and there's the Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit. There's Lord, the three in one, the Father, God Almighty. All those, and that's one spirit. That's good spirit. And then there's the other spirit, which is the demonic spirit. And all I can say is I couldn't come up with a lot of demonic spirits. I came up with things that were helpful to me, such as I'll just start out and tell you about an instance. I say the Lord was right there watching over me and telling me what exactly I needed to do. And I tell you what, he didn't say to me, now do this, Pam, or do that. I felt it immediately. So here I go. I was coming up to my Aunt Carrie's house. She's in her 90s, and
wow.
I knocked at the door, and Aunt Carrie doesn't answer, so I think, well, Aunt Carrie probably can't hear too good or something, but I know she's got to be there. I mean, where do old folks go anyway?
Sure.
And
surely
so,
she's there somewhere, right?
Surely she's in there. So I knocked, and I know my mom, I'd seen her just kind of open the doorknob and say, Aunt Carrie, and go on in. But, I put my hand on that doorknob, and the hair on my body stood on end. And when that happened, I said, I think I'm not going to go in there. And I left. I just decided I wasn't going to go on in there, and I went on my way. And, a night or two, a little later, I was talking to my mom, and she said, oh, I've been meaning to tell you about Aunt Carrie. She can't hear too good, and she can't see too good, and she's a little bit scared living in that house by herself like that, and she has a shotgun. Don't ever go in her house. Don't ever turn the doorknob and just go on in.
Yeah.
That's the only kind of stories I've got tonight like that, and I'm going to have to conjure up what the others are from
Well, I tell you what, it was probably a really good thing that you didn't go in there, because you'd probably wind up full of holes, and
I think
she
a
wouldn't
leap
have
year.
she wouldn't have been real happy with the results, and you wouldn't have either. And
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't
but see that
think the
little
Lord
that
wants.
little that little nudge on the back of your neck, that little foretelling, that those little things, that's the Holy Spirit saying, "Hey, you're in danger, and
Right.
you need to move your feet."
Yes.
And I've had this happen many times as doing the kind of work I did most of my life, and I know for sure that I've always listened to that little gut feeling, that little voice, because it's never been wrong. And I'm glad that you didn't go in there, or you wouldn't be with us tonight, would you?
Amen. Amen.
So everybody say amen. Who's next? Gloria, come on. I know you got something.
I'm here.
Hi,
Well,
Gloria. How are you doing tonight? Thank you for being on the show
I'm
with me.
doing well. Um, I had not too long ago a new experience. And I think that's been because I have joined here at TDC, and the, they do more of the spiritual warfare. So, of course, when I'm trying to join in, um, things will start to happen. And it was about maybe a couple months ago. I was asleep, and I started having this dream. And in the dream, I cannot remember what the dream was about now, but I do know that when in the dream, I started feeling like my mouth was being bound and held, and I felt it around my, like the tingliness, I could physically sense it,
That
and it
foreboding
was
feeling,
kind
yeah.
of, it's just I couldn't speak in the dream, and it felt like something really had like wrapped around my head to keep my mouth shut. And
Ooh.
in the dream, I just knew. I just started screaming Jesus in my mind. I screamed Jesus twice, and it let loose.
Wow.
The feeling was gone, and I was like, "Oh yay, thank you, Lord."
Do you think something was attacking you in your dream, or
Yes,
was it a waking
yes.
dream? I mean, were you conscious enough to? I mean, a lot of times people are dreaming; they'll dream all kinds of crazy things. I've walked on Jupiter and took a spaceship all the way to your house, and we dream all kinds of things, but sometimes we have these waking dreams in which we can feel these presences. And was it something like that?
I didn't feel a presence. It's just I felt the physical sensation of having my mouth so like that. So I could not speak. And I had never had that happen in any kind of dream before that.
Well,
So I just,
those are things that go bump in the night, and that's why we're here.
yes.
And
Exactly.
I'm sure that many of our listeners have had many such encounters and many things. I've got one now that we're going to do before I introduce the next lady on our list, and she's very special to me. Marla, she's got a little story as well, and I want everybody to hear that. But let me tell you one from a dear friend of mine. This is a girl. I've known her for a long time. She's my elder by many years, and she was actually a close friend of my mom's, and they become very, very close friends. And I met her through my mom, and she has a younger cousin that lives in West Virginia, and she relayed this story to me, and I wanted to share it with you tonight because it was very, very spooky. And this young woman, and her name is Caroline, she was, for the most part, a survivalist. she lived out in the woods in the Virginia wilderness, and she was very trained in the outdoors and even worked as a guide part-time for the state park. And she loved to go solo camping, and she returns home after 2 weeks of being in the bush and not seeing a single soul. She had a really good time and felt very relaxed, very comfortable, very happy that she had gotten so much alone time. She kind of relished in that. And she decided to run up to, in the little town she lives nearby, to the Fujifilm kiosk. And she developed her little disposable camera film, and she got her pictures back within a couple hours. And she noticed that on this roll of film, none of the pictures she took were on there. But instead, there were pictures of her sleeping at night. On different nights even. And close-up pictures of her in her little bedroll, in her little tent, that she couldn't possibly have taken because she was fast asleep. And on this roll of film, as I said, there were numerous pictures of her sleeping at night and on different nights. And she had never gone camping or hiking since. It freaked her out that bad.
That'd be really creepy.
And yeah. Well, about a year ago, she got a letter in the mail. And the postmark on the letter, it was a dingy looking letter. It had dust all over it. And it just didn't look like the rest of the mail she got. And she looked at it, and something caught her eye because the postmark was in red, and now they use black, and she thought that was kind of funny. She looked at it closely, and the postmark on the letter was from 1971. That's right. Now, this event actually happened, and this was in 2017. And so how could that, she opens this letter only to see something that she vaguely recognized, just vaguely, just something came to her, but it was some scribbled handwriting on a little note, and she just kept looking at the scribble, but the text read, "Darling, this is your dad. I never came back, but God has allowed me to watch over you." She dropped the letter on the bed, and she ran to her baby book in the next room, realizing that this letter was one left to her that was in her baby book, and she had seen this very note before. Sure enough, the letter was in her baby book. The letter was there. And the handwriting was an exact match. Exact.
So was it a duplicate? Or
well, and the story goes on. And the same date was 3 days before his death on the letter. Now, her father had worked as a coal miner there in Virginia, and had went to work one day and never came home. They said he was killed in a mine collapse only a few miles from their homestead that she grew up in. The date was July of 71 when he died. She pondered all of this, and it just seemed just too surreal, and it was just a mind-blowing event for her because she couldn't believe she got a letter in her mailbox, this film in her camera of her sleeping. It was just almost too much. Now, she just couldn't get these images and things to go away, and she remembered back to the time when she was 7 years old and the day that her dad didn't come home. Well, a few days passed, and, she's made some phone calls and talked to some people and talked to some friends. She's still really freaked out, and all this went on, and she finally said, I've got to go tell my mom. Now, her mom's house still lived in the original homestead. It was about 100 miles from where she lives now. And she took the letter with her and the pictures. And although she really didn't want to freak her little mother out, she had to tell someone that would know something, because this was just too bizarre. So after dinner, she told the story to her mom, and the mom looks at her and says, "Let me show you something." And kind of surprised, she opened a small drawer and took out a small letter with the exact same scribbled handwriting. And but this one had an envelope with it as well. And it said, "Your daughter will be here soon, asking you about me. Just tell her that I love her." And the date on the envelope was 1971, the postmark. She said, "I got this a few days ago as well, and this is too freaky. I can't believe you got a letter. I got a letter. What's going on? This is just..." And they're sitting there trembling, like someone has come back from the grave to give them a message. Well, a few minutes passed, and just looking at this picture, and boom, there was a boom in the background, a big, large boom. And then a few minutes later, another boom. Boom! You could hear it in the background. The windows shook a little bit, and you knew it was down the road somewhere. And her mom said, "Well, maybe it's just about to storm. I don't know." They both looked at the picture of Frank, her husband, the girl's father, on the wall, and smiled. And at that very moment, the picture fell. It fell off the wall, and it bounced on a nightstand, and it landed right in the lap of the daughter, right after one of these booms. And they were both in total amazement that nothing else fell off the wall, and this boom in the distance and the picture falling off was her father, and it landed literally right in her lap. They were both in total amazement of what just happened. And it turned out, as she was leaving home, there was a detour sign. She couldn't go back the way she came. About a mile down the road, as she was leaving for home, they had this detour sign, and a sign saying, "Blasting crew, dynamite in use, mine work." And she realized then that must be where the booms were coming from. And when she got home, she had a pink card on her door with a number to call the postal inspector. You know how sometimes the post office will leave a little pink note on your door. So, very curious, all these other things going on, and she's still so freaked out. She has this number to call the postal inspector on her door, and this little pink card, and so she grabs her phone and calls the postal inspector. So curious, she called, and he said, "We found some mail buried in an old mine last week in the next city over. Just so you know, we did send it to you." What do you think about that?
Wow.
And,
oh my gosh.
and you wonder how these things happen. You wonder why they happen. You wonder if it's, a coincidence or whatever. I personally, I don't believe in coincidences. But you have to wonder what's really going on in the spirit. And if these things, the Bible tells us to, when these things come into your life, not to dabble with them, but when they come into your life, to test these spirits, because you don't want to play with anything that you shouldn't be playing with. You know what I mean. Okay, Marla, I know you're back there somewhere, and you're next. So pop in and
Breaking
tell
up's
us.
terrible, Mars.
Well,
Hopefully we can get through this.
yeah, hopefully, and it's a super bad thunderstorm. I don't know what's going on. Trying to figure it all out. Shouldn't have any other connected devices that are eating up my bandwidth, but it's real funny. Started the show, my speakers were all malfunctioning. My other computer literally shut itself off, and there's few little paranormal things that are going on right now in this room with my equipment. But we've prayed. We've prayed about this, and we know that the devil attacks our shows all the time. They attack Red's show, they attack Rob's show, they attack everybody's show, and whether it's the devil or the weather, it's still something that we have to get through. So, come on, Marla, tell us what you got.
I just want to add with this topic, it's out there. You've advertised, so there definitely want to tune in to this one. So we know our God is greater, and we'll get through this. So, all right. Well, listen, I come from a weird family, Mason on my dad's side. He was a Mason.
I'm gonna shut up. I'm gonna shut up. Okay, come on, bring it.
Well, no, that is fine. My crazy family, right?
Yeah.
Eastern Stars, my grandmother.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness!
And my aunt.
I'd had a few too, actually.
Yeah.
Really?
And
yeah,
it was just mom. Neither one of them Christians. Mom's side Nazarene, strong Nazarene. So my grandparents were an influence in my life later on.
Yeah, I went to the Church of the Nazarene too in Pine Bluff when I was growing up a little bit. So yeah, I'm familiar with that.
Well, I just wasn't raised Christian at all, right? And so, my mom, she had some freaky deaky incidents before me. So
She said freaky deaky.
If you got plenty of time, yeah, I've got that from Rob. All right, well, so when we first moved, I live in the home I was raised in by just my mom. We built this when I was like 6, 7 years old. She bought this acre for $1,000 back then, and built this little 2-bedroom home that my husband and I purchased in '94 from Mom. So the things that went bump in the night here, I think they're still here. A few things, anyway. Yeah. So even though I went through and tried to clean it, there's a little bit of residual. But let's start. You want to hear what Mom experienced before she bought me a Ouija board?
Oh, yeah. I mean, anytime you even bring something like that into your domain, whether you use it or not, whether it's in the box with the plastic still on it, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The devil and his toys, right?
Well, I think just being married to my dad, which was a wicked man, being a Mason, I don't know. It's come to me lately. I believe Dad promised me to the Masons. I'm not sure. That's something I've been asking God about. But I just believe that because she has that attachment, that what do they call it? It's called something about not a soulmate, but there's a soul
tie.
Soul tie,
Yeah, there's a lot of things that can be. Usually, soul ties are ever how misplaced sexual in nature, but there can be other things like that. So yeah, go ahead.
Well, she, just being married to Dad, and he was abusive. I've seen them beat the crap out of each other.
Oh,
and,
man.
Because Mom was a wildcat. She wouldn't stand I mean, she would stand up to him. She just wouldn't take his stuff, right? So there was a lot of abuse, which I told you a little bit the other day. Abuse on my end, too, from Dad. So there was just a lot of ugliness going on. Well, Mom, when she first built this place, moved in, and because she was rebellious and didn't, want God in her life through her parents' upbringing, it had even more to do with it, Mars. So she's sitting all depressed once, like, how am I going to pay all of my bills? I've gotten laid off. How am I going to do this? And the television was off, but she was, just thinking to herself, not to God, when the television spoke to her.
Really?
And it told her in a demonic voice, with the TV off, that she couldn't do anything right.
Well,
I'm
telling you what, my grandfather has a very, very exact, identical story to that that I was going to bring up tonight. But now that you've said that, no, I want you to finish your story before I get to this. But it's identical so far. I mean, he had,
and then I can go.
Well, he had just gotten a TV. This was back in. They got electricity very late out on the farm. I think they got electricity out in '61, and this was '63. My uncle had brought in, his oldest son had brought in a TV set, old black and white TV set, and there in the state of Arkansas, there's only 3 channels, 7, 4, and 11, and my granddad had just turned the television off. He was scared of the TV. He didn't like all that fancy technology. He was an old school Quaker, more of a primitive, and I remember, I was real little, but I remember sitting in the room, and he had just watched Lawrence Welk. And he liked
I like Lawrence Welk.
Well, he liked that black guy that would do the tap dancing on Lawrence Welk. He would laugh, and it's it was the only time I ever seen my granddad laugh was when he was watching that. And I thought, well, I don't think you're a prejudiced man, but I've never seen you laugh before. But at least you're laughing and not yelling. It was something. And he had just turned the TV off. Batman was coming on Channel 4 before I went to bed, and he decided I wasn't going to watch Batman. And he turned the TV off, and I started to object. And he sent me out of the room, and I stood at the doorway with the door half open, and the television started talking to my grandfather. I seen it. It said, don't you ever run him out of the room again, or something like that. I don't remember the exact words. It was so long ago, but it was, and my grandfather was so scared. He went and took that TV out into the shed, and he locked it up with a lock and chain. And for almost 5 years after that, I grew up without a TV. He was that scared of it. So I don't really know everything that happened that night but he was saying a lot of stuff to my grandmother as I was laying in bed. You know how when you're a little kid, you lay in bed and you hear your parents off in the background, and they're talking about you and talking about other people, and you're squirming around trying to figure it all out. But he had some stuff to say that night. And it was like, that thing is a demon. You shouldn't have brought it in my house. Da 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 da. And so yeah.
Well, we know why too, because Satan is in the he's the prince of the air and the airwaves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
now,
come on, Marlon.
I almost forgot. I forgot this part.
Okay, come on.
Back when we lived in another home that I was, like, I was born in '64, you guys, so I was probably 5 years old. Now, this may have nothing to do with supernatural. For people that are photographers, you may be able to help me. I've always wanted to ask somebody this. It just comes to me. I was in a gown with flowers. My mom was always taking pictures of me. And my cat was sitting beside me. When we get them developed, black and white, no, color back, finally got color. The cat's eye was missing, right? One of its eyes was missing in the photo, and it was on my gown. Does that make sense?
What?
Well, that's pretty wild right there, because they didn't really have that technology back then. And on top of that, kitty cats are known to blink, but their eyes are not known to come out and move over to in front of yourself. So
that's the only odd picture that I know of that anything is showing up.
That's pretty wild. Wow.
Now, I had more,
That
but
went
it's
bump in the
already
night.
went.
That one went bump in the night. Everybody raise their hand. That one went bump in the night. We're going to give you a 5 on that one. That was good. That was good. That was excellent. Who's next? I know somebody's there that has
You
something.
will get back to my good ones.
Oh yeah, we're coming back to you. Don't we got all kinds of time left. We're 46 minutes in the show. I know Jenny's sneaking back there somewhere.
Yep.
I
she's
know
around
she
somewhere, but
is.
she's not right here and right at the moment.
Oh really? Okay.
No.
Well,
Jenny.
we're y'all can call her. Maybe send her one of those cat's eyes. She'll pop in.
I do know she had some pictures that she shared on Discord
Yeah.
that were pretty neat
those were awesome.
freaky, because she hadn't seen what was showing up on the film.
Oh really? Wow. Well, I mean, just like, you said this earlier. I didn't say it. I didn't have to. You said it. That the devil is the prince of the power of the air. And these things he can manipulate. Understand, they have Newton's 10th steep technology. And they're able to do a lot of tricky things that we're not quite aware of yet. You know.
Right.
And I've got a little one that I want to share. It's a little UFO story. How about that? Y'all want to hear a little bitty UFO story? This is kind of short, but it's very interesting. I was not born yet. I wasn't even thought about yet. My mom had not even met my dad yet. In fact, my mom was 9 years old. And my mother had many aunts and uncles. My grandparents had 9 children. And my mother was one of the ones in between in there somewhere. And they were all out in the front yard playing. My grandmother had run them all outside because she was in there shelling peas and just really, everybody was, in her way. My granddad was down the road just a little bit in the next field over with his metal tractor. You could see him in the distance, according to my mom. And he was, making with his metal wheel tractor a little trail of dirt, and he was just humping away, plowing his little field. My granddad did soybeans back then and strawberries, kind of an odd mix, but in southeast Arkansas, that's what you get. And about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, when this went down, there was a bright light in the sky. And it was so bright, in fact, that my aunts and uncles recall it this way, that it looked like there was a second sun at noon that had just suddenly appeared. And I asked my aunt about this, one aunt in particular, and she said, Michael, I'm telling you, it just looked like another sun. And I really didn't know what to think, because her description of it wasn't as good as I wanted. We'll put it that way. So, as this goes on, in about 15 minutes, the light subsided, and just suddenly, this thing came out of the sky and hovered down to the ground, just to the east of the house, maybe 45 feet, there near my grandfather's 8-row, quarter-mile long strawberry patch, and hovered right over the strawberry patch, and it was a large metallic disc. And I know my mother, she would never lie to me. She just never did. And even if she was embellishing this or telling me something, my other remaining aunts and uncles that were alive would not also have an exact same story. In fact, I wrote a little paper on this in high school because I was so fascinated by this story. We were doing a creative writing class there in school, and I said, well, what a better deal, I'll just go interview all my aunts and uncles about the story that my mom told me, because she's full of it. I just, couldn't really be a flying disc in the strawberry patch. But there was. And so my aunts and uncles all tell the same story. This thing came straight down and hovered about 2 foot off the ground right above the strawberry patch. And my mom describes everybody was just standing there with their mouth open. All the kids, they had never seen anything like this. And my Aunt Margaret ran back in the house to grab my grandmother. My grandmother come outside, seen it, went back in the house and got the shotgun, come back out on the porch, and even she was just frozen in place with her mouth wide open. Couldn't believe it. My grandfather's tractor out in the field had stopped running. Wasn't running at all, and he was standing there off his tractor looking at the motor like something had happened. And then when he looked toward the house, he too was staring with his mouth open. You could just barely see him, my mom said. And this thing had little bitty windows. It was maybe 50 foot around, pretty big. And it had little bitty windows. And she said that she seen a little being come in front of one of the windows, and that it was a gray color looking thing. It seemed to look like a gray piece of cardboard, just gray. And that it had big black eyes. And it held its hand up to the window like it was waving at her. And all my aunts and uncles tell the exact same story. They just wouldn't all be lying to me. And my Uncle Buck ran from the porch where he was at. He was the youngest child. He was probably 4 at the time, 3 or 4. And he ran right over to it, right almost underneath it. And my other aunt, Geneva, ran over to him and grabbed him. She was about a year older than my mom. Grabbed him and tried to carry him back to the porch, and he was screaming, "I want to see it, I want to see it, I want to see it." And to this day, even though that he was very young, his memory of that matches the story of all the rest of my uncles and aunts. And I continue to grill my mom about this. What happened? She said it hovered there, and it was almost like nobody could really do anything. It was like the motivation to do things were absent. And I said, "Well, what do you mean? I don't get it." I asked my Uncle Roy, and he told me the same thing. He was the oldest, second oldest, and he said, "I just stood there. I just felt like I needed to just stand there. I can't really describe it." And I said, "Well, did you feel something? Did something come over you? Did you hear anything?" And he said, "No, it was completely quiet. Didn't make a single sound. Didn't make any buzzing noises. There was no motor noises." Well, he said out of the corner of his eyes, he seen some movement, and he too seen this little being in the window. And him and my mom were the only two that apparently seen the little being. But then he said that he also seen my grandfather was walking at a pretty good clip, headed back toward the house, and he was in a bit of a hurry. I'm sure he was tired because he'd been out there all day apparently, and he was trying to find out what was going on. He just couldn't believe it. And this was before electricity was in the house. They didn't have any electricity. This is a primitive Quaker family, and the absolutes were all there with every person that I interviewed. Could not believe the similarities of every single story. And one of my aunts, who is a very strong Christian, she's gone now. She passed away several years back with bone cancer. But when I was doing this little interview for my school report, she told me, she said, "Michael," that's my surname. She said, "I don't really want to talk about this." And I said, "Aunt Geneva, why?" And she said, "Because they're demons, Michael. They're demons. You need to leave them alone." And this is back in the 50s, and when people, even back in that day and age, knew instinctively what these things were. Didn't nobody say they're aliens? There wasn't any comic books or movies at that time. There was no books that were being passed around. There were no TVs, no electricity, none of those things. It was a generation that was much different than our own.
Mars, what did your Aunt Geneva say? They're demons, Michael, and then you cut out.
Yeah, she said
Yeah,
they're
they cut
demons.
out.
She said they're demons, Michael. Leave them alone. She said they're
Leave 'em
demons.
alone.
Leave them alone. And she recognized, and she, you know, I brought it up one more time at dinner table, and they excused me from dinner. She actually got mad at me. And she excused me from dinner, and she said, I told you I'm not going to talk about this, that they were demons, and I felt it, and I knew it. You're excused from the table. Go into your room and do your homework. And she was pretty upset with me. But when you have people with that kind of emotion, when every story is exactly the same, and you know that your own mother wouldn't lie to you about these things, well, let me tell you what. Come several years later, in 61, I came alive on this planet. And by 63, I was out on that very same farm. My mom had moved back home with me. And my dad and my grandparents were getting up in years. And to this day, where the strawberry patch was, nothing grows there. Nothing. Big round circle, about 40 foot, 50 foot across, and nothing will grow there. In fact, I have been out there many times. My Uncle Ray, the oldest child, burnt the house down back in the late 80s because it was, everybody had moved out and moved on, and everybody had a life. And the old house was full of termites. My granddad had hand-built that house way, way back in the 40s. And it was just old and dilapidated, and he'd burn it down so that they could use the space for a field. But to this day, when you drive out Simcoe Lane, the name of my grandfather, H.B. Simcoe, when you drive out Simcoe Lane and you stop where in front of the old homestead, you can clearly look out to that rice field now, and nothing grows in that spot. Big old round spot, nothing will still grow there. See, in 63, that strawberry patch was still there. When I was 3 and 4 years old, because I remember going out there and playing in it when I was a real little kid, going out there eating the strawberries, and they would tell me, quit eating the strawberries, quit eating the strawberries, we're picking them, we're not eating them. You know how your parents will get on to you. But today, in that very spot, nothing will grow. Now, what do you think about that story, ladies and gentlemen?
I think we need a picture. That'd be great.
Well, and I did have one, believe it or not, but it's been lost over the years. It was on an old computer that had Windows 95 on it, and as you know, all those computers are dead and gone. So, but it's
up there though. That'd be awesome.
Well, I plan on it before I die, and but last report, people still talk about that spot all over town. They say the spot, and people know about it when they say the spot where nothing will grow. They'll take you right out Simcoe Lane and show you that spot, nothing will grow. And that story has been around for a while, ever since my aunts and uncles told it, to various friends, and you know how things spread in a little town.
It's too bad that the world just thinks there's too many that blink. Oh, goodness, that's real aliens.
Well,
And
but we've been conditioned. You're right. We've been conditioned. We've seen all these movies. They're going to be up on the rooftops, and they're going to have their little signs going, "Oh, you're here. Help us. It's wonderful that you're here. Hello, aliens. You're finally here. First contact." Well, I'm telling you, it's not going to be a party when they do arrive.
No.
And we know what they really are.
Yeah, and I've got friends, when I first started doing radio, one of my early shows were on UFOs, and I had a little friend in Japan, and I would talk sometimes to him, and he would. One day we were on a little simple whiteboard, and you know, I'm doing a little test because I kind of want to find out something. Just so would you do me a favor? And he said, what? And we were writing each other on this little whiteboard. It was the internet whiteboard at the time. I don't remember what program it was, but it was pretty cool. And you could, you know, draw little stick figures and things. And I said, I want you to draw me an alien. And he said, what? And he had never been to America. His English was pretty good, but he had never been to America. And he said, what? And I said, just whatever you think an alien looks like, just draw me a little alien. I'm just curious what you think they look like. And so I noticed the little red marker start drawing on the computer screen, and he drew the same little alien that everyone on this planet is familiar with. The oblong head, the big eyes, the very same thing my mom's seen. And everyone on this planet has been conditioned to see these things. We see them in newspapers, books, even on lunch boxes, on refrigerator magnets. We know what these things look like. For a reason, wouldn't you think? Hello, hello? Everybody die on me?
Oh,
No, you
there
cut
you go.
out.
You
We
yeah,
couldn't hear
you went.
you.
We couldn't hear what you were saying. I'm here. I have a story about what I thought was a UFO. Um,
Come on with it.
Can I tell that?
Absolutely. Lay it on us.
All right. Well, it was late at night, and in Texas, it's not too often that you have a clear, crisp, cold night. It's usually all this sultry stuff that's, you know, kind of yuck. Anyway, it was time for the cat to come in. I lived in the edge of the town, and I didn't want whatever was out there to get this my pet cat, you know. And so I went to the edge out there where it's nice and dark, and you know, the edge of town, so I could see the stars out there. It was just really crisp, really clear. Looked up in the sky, and I see the V looking. It looks like someone drew something in a nice thin line, not waver, not just beautifully waved like a V up
Wow.
there.
In the sky, Pam?
Yeah, up in the sky. Up in the
Okay.
clear sky.
Come on with it, Pam. Tell us about it.
And up in the sky, I'm seeing that V, and I'm going, oh, what is that? Just whoa! What? I'm at the edge of the town here. This is a little spooky. I'm out here by myself, and so I stood up. I stood out there looking to see what else, you know, just watching this thing, and you know, all I saw was the, you know, lights shining like a V, looking like a big gigantic V up in the sky, and so I as I looked at it,
when was
parts
this,
of it,
Pam? When was this? When did this happen?
you know, I looked and noticed. I'll tell you something about that in a minute. Just gradually, the parts of it started disappearing, and you know, ending up with a smaller V and the same size, no change in size, but it's like the legs started dropping out. So, and then it all went away. So, I looked back more recently, and they're disclosing more information now about the military, or they're doing stuff with, you know, I don't know what they call them, UFO. They're doing stuff out there with the military to make you think, well, that's got to be a UFO. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, that V sounded like something out of the military projects, black projects, like maybe the Aurora spacecraft. Yeah, keep going.
Exactly. About the same year, or within that time when they started working on that, that's about when I saw it. That made sense. You know, sometimes we can make sense of things, sometimes we can't.
Well,
Yeah,
you
you
know,
know
there
that.
was a up there, actually kind of close to Jen, but up there in Rob's territory in Ohio, there was a big 4.3 earthquake there today in one of the most rarest places ever, right at the very tip of the Great Madrid Fault, and I'm the New Madrid Fault, and I'm really wondering. It was one of the largest earthquakes Ohio has ever experienced, and that happened today. Isn't that crazy? It's 4.0.
Yeah, we haven't heard of them before.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. And so you've got these aliens in the sky. You've got B-shaped aircraft. You've got earthquakes. You've got aliens landing in the strawberry patch. You've got freaky film where someone or something is taking pictures of you while you're asleep. You see, there are a lot of things that go bump in the night. And we don't know what all these things are. We're not pretending that we do. But I'm in agreement with my aunt. I don't know about you ladies. You key in and tell me what you think.
Demons.
The great deception is going to be by these things. They're demons. They're angels flying around in technology that we have been force-fed so that we're able to at least recognize that there is technology a little above ours. You know how the Bible explains angels, that they're a little above us. You know that passage. And it makes you wonder. And I believe that during the Gog War, this is my personal belief. It is somewhat biblical, but I believe that during the Gog War, the judgment of the nations, after millions lay dead from this nuclear holocaust that we may experience, that these things are going to show up in mass, millions of them in our skies, and it's part of the Great Deception, and that they're going to shoot down a few remaining missiles so that people can see, and they're going to land, and they're going to say, "Oh, you've been doing it all wrong. You need a one world government and a one world leader, and institute this new world order system." What do you think?
Oh, I agree. I just have felt like, well, if it's pre-trib, if the bride is out of here, I believe then that's what they're going to use. And we probably all heard this. Well, we're the ones that took the bad people away, the judgmental people.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, maybe, yeah. What? You know, I never considered that angle. I never considered that angle, but you know, that's a new one. I'm gonna start using that. I'm stealing that. I want you to know that I'm gonna steal that. That is a new angle on that. So yeah, that's good. That's good. Come on.
Yeah, they'll claim that we were claimed by the aliens for sure. I mean,
Yeah, they took us out. We're judgmental. We're what are?
We're the ones that were at fault, the ones that started the nuclear war. That it was
we say everything.
Yeah, the ultra conservatives.
Found valuable is wrong, is upside down.
Yeah.
Right.
Everything right is wrong, good is evil, evil is good. Yeah. They'll flip everything around. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's what Satan does.
Well, you know, I've said this on many
sightings.
shows. I've said this on many shows, and y'all can look this up and tell me if I'm right or wrong, because I've read through the Bible several times and I miss stuff all the time. I do not know my Bible the way I should. My memory just doesn't remember things the way it did anymore.
That's why my grandparents read it.
All the time, every time, because to refresh your mind, write it down, do what you have to. I agree, but
and then they start it over again.
But you can clearly see that the Antichrist is listed as a man, and the Bible goes into great detail about this man. The Bible goes into great detail what his attributes are, but when it comes to the false prophet, there's no such saying that he is a man. And I believe it to be one of these little gray aliens, a mouthpiece for the Antichrist. And Carl the other day told me, it just may be an artificial intelligence. It may be a self-construct by them or us using D-Wave technology, using the quantum computer. We don't really know. But nowhere does it say that the false prophet is a man. Isn't that interesting?
Well, they'll be showing the image of the beast. We know that they can take and use facial recognition to make anybody say anything that they want them to say.
Oh, absolutely. They can convict you in a court of law by you saying these things and you never said them. And then even probably give you the false memories that you did.
We know it's all demonic. So.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And, I recount this story of, his name was Cody Hawkins. He was a little kid out of Vermont. And his mom, he kept telling his mom he was 7 years old. No, he was 17 years old. And he told his mom, he went to the kitchen and told his mom, "Mom, I'm hearing voices." And boy, she flipped out. She said, "Huh? You're what? You're a straight A student. You don't hear voices, son. What's going on?" And she was really concerned there for a minute. She set him down at the kitchen table and she said, "Explain." And Cody said, "Mom, as soon as I go to the back door, between the back door and the back door window, I hear voices, and it's only in one place." And he said, "When I go in the bathroom," and the bathroom was in a straight line through the kitchen, he said, "I also hear the voices in there." And it took them a little while to figure it out, but Cody's mom went there and was standing there, and suddenly she ran back to the kitchen table and told Cody, "I hear him too, something's wrong." And she burst out in tears, real emotional. You know how Jenny gets, something like that. And she says, "Well, at least you're not lying. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on." And later that week, Cody's uncle comes by and he's saying that the NSA was doing a test with some strange vehicle that they had parked down at the end of the block. Had anybody else seen it? It was a big old van with big antennas all over it. And he said it was NSA, but there wasn't any markings on it. And so we don't really know what, alphabet soup it was, but it was a van that parked there. And Cody said, "Oh yeah, when I was riding home from school the other day, I seen it, and it was parked right there by the house." And so, they can put voices in your head.
I have heard of it.
Yes.
Of others saying that. Now, my case, I hear high-pitched noises constantly, right? So I've just tried to, just tune them out. But it's very hard when you're trying to get to sleep. And all
when I was in the military, they told us that of all humans, women hear better than men. Then they said that young girls at the age of about 13 hear better than any other humans. So, yeah, if it's going to happen that way, it's going to be from a woman. So, yeah.
Well, I got a little story to tell about that. When I was having a heart, a stress test recently in this nuclear medicine department, this lady, she was telling me that when she's hooking me up, and she says, I just had surgery trying to fix the noise in my ears. And I told her, "Oh my gosh, I've got that." And she said, "My coworker here," and she put her hand up, and we got joking. She said, "The surgery didn't work." She said, "I'm so frustrated." She said, "We think it's the Chinese."
Really? Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
We think it's the Chinese.
How many people really have tinnitus?
Tinnitus or whatever you call it. Yeah.
Tinnitus. Yeah.
That's
Joe
freaky.
and I have it too.
No, but that is not a common thing. If you go look that up, that's actually pretty rare. Which one of y'all's a nurse? I know one of y'all ladies have some nursing in there, and I wanted to ask you about that stress test.
Medical testing.
Well, is that stress test the thing that they hook you up and put you on a treadmill and give you something and make you go until your heart's about ready to explode? Is that
Yeah.
Either
Now, in
that or
my case,
medically.
they did mine medically, so they didn't
Yeah.
put me on a stress test. Yeah.
wow?
I mean, on a treadmill. And
But-
I passed,
Right.
you guys. Praise God, I passed it. I was good. Yeah.
Yay!
Well, that's
Even though
I
a
probably
heart
wouldn't pass it.
aneurysm. Yeah, even with this heart aneurysm, at least I'm not, it looks like I'm going to be killing over a heart attack anytime soon.
Well, a lot of those little bleeders, believe it or not, they seal themselves back up. I've got a friend of mine who had one in her lung, and it was a little bitty, like 9 centimeters, and
Oh,
or
no,
9
mine's
millimeter,
not
9
real.
millimeters, something like that, 9 millimeters, and it sealed
I'm
itself up.
4.5 centimeters, and 5 they operate. So
Oh, that's
keep me in your
scary.
prayers.
Yeah.
It's gonna that it won't burst. It's a bad when it's in a bad area, ascending aortic aneurysm in my heart. So, yeah. Anybody out there, please pray.
I'll definitely do that.
God's got you, dearest.
Yeah.
Oh, he does.
Yeah, you got to stay with us because we got to have more of these kind of shows, and
Yeah,
you're
I
going to
was
have to
wondering
be on.
what's more of your stories, Marla?
Yeah,
Oh, I've got
come on, one of y'all,
more.
Pam, somebody, Marla,
Pam, you're
Glow, one of y'all.
Oh, Marla, go ahead. Whoever else. That was my best one, I believe. I have a sweet one. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you about a sweet one because what y'all have been talking about is kind of spooky and scary. So I want to tell you about how the Lord blessed me, how the Holy Spirit came to me as I was driving on a 2-lane road. That means somebody's coming at us, and just two lanes, not 4. All right. And so the oncoming traffic, I'm on a country road. It's paved, but it's got a lot of, dips in it. And it had been raining or was raining. And I'm going along thinking, I hope I don't hit one of these, pots of water, or hoping nothing's going to happen where I get a bunch of some of the rain thrown upon my windshield or something. But
Right.
I was thinking, I hope everything's going to be okay. And I don't know, about that time, there was a car that was oncoming, and they were in their lane, but they hit a pocket of water that threw water on my windshield, and I couldn't see, but at the same time, my hand slipped off the steering wheel and hit the wiper arm to make the wipers go. Praise the Lord. That's miracle. That's just miracle.
Oh well, it is, particularly when you didn't anticipate something like that, and your
had no
body just
idea.
comes to the rescue. I mean, that's the Lord as your co-pilot. I'm telling you, and sometimes He's your pilot, not just your co-pilot.
And sometimes what? I'm sorry?
Sometimes He's not just your pilot or your co-pilot. Sometimes He's your pilot.
Yeah.
You're breaking up.
I'm sorry. I really hate it when that happens, and I don't know what's going on. There's a line of bad thunderstorms that are approaching here or leaving here.
Line of bad thunderstorms.
Yeah, one of those things.
That reminds me.
I don't know if that helped or not.
I don't know. Marla?
Yeah, that reminds me of a wonderful story for me as a new Christian, a baby Christian, in 1990. By then it was 91 or 2. I was working for the hospital, going out and seeing patients. And, wow, I'm not very good with semis. My husband's been a driver as long as I've known him, 37 years, 38 years, but they still intimidate me. I don't know. I was in a small Toyota on a 4-lane heading south, and suddenly this thing decides he's in the left-hand lane, but he's going to move over in my lane So what I do, I swerve real fast, over into his lane.
Yeah,
He was
yeah.
in the left.
Yeah.
With my heart beating out of my chest, I'm like, thank you, Lord, because I think if He hadn't been with me, I'd have been screamed. Maybe not, I don't know, but I praised Him more, and I think I'm not remembering enough of it, but it was an awesome.
Well, I
Crazy
remember
moment
Rob's
for me,
little story last week. You remember when he was in that truck and the automatic pilot took control and he was
yeah.
freaking out.
Yeah.
That I was listening to that and I was going, man, you lucky that you didn't flip over 13 times and they're cleaning you up with some Windex and a paper towel. I mean, wow.
Yeah.
So
I know. I was in his blind spot is why that driver veered over, right? He needed to get to Morgan's packing and was lost, apparently, and he just seen it finally. And he thought, well, there's no one behind me. I can pull over.
You'd think,
get over in the
yeah.
right-hand lane. Yeah, I don't
Well,
know. I
that
don't remember
they're
much.
supposed to check their mirrors and have everything set, but no driver's perfect, and
Maybe I was getting ready to pass him. I don't know. I just remember being thankful, that.
well,
could've
there
been
are
bad.
things like that still give you dreams at night. Those are also
Yeah.
bump in the night
Yeah.
moments. Okay, who's
My
next?
husband,
Yeah,
my
y'all.
husband told me-
I tell you what. But before we continue, if y'all don't mind, we're going to
break?
take a itty bitty tiny break. I've got to
Yes.
unplug a wire and plug it back up because somebody has been up underneath my desk, and I know which little critter, four-legged critter it was, and they're up under here playing. And it's amazing because you would think that animals would have and they have several games, almost human-like games like hide and go seek and chase, but one of the most fascinating ones with cats is hockey. They'll find something and they'll play hockey with it all over the house. And they will
I have
they'll
that here.
unplug one of my wires
have
like
that.
it's a snake. And I've literally seen my cat drag one of my wires literally off my machine. She grabbed a Cat 5 cable, unplugged it out of my machine, and was literally dragging it with my router off my table going down the hallway. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And you can child-proof your home, you can dog-proof your home, you can kid-proof your home, but you cannot kitty-cat-proof your home. Just letting you know. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do a
trying to take off with my shirt. He had the end of my shirt trying to take off with it the other night.
Really?
I posted pictures. I don't know if you saw it. Yeah.
You posted pictures of the cat with your shirt, had taken your shirt.
He didn't take it off of me. It was a long, like a
Oh, well, dead burn it.
or cover up. But he had the end of it. And he was like, "Mommy, I'm going with this." And it's in his mouth, and it's silly looking. So.
Here, I
Yeah,
thought
let's
you were
take a
going to
break,
give us
Marv. I'm sorry.
along with the radio show, we were going to get a real show. But that's the nature of kitty cats. They're So I've got to crawl up under here. It's going to be ugly because you don't visualize a fat man trying to get up under the table. That's what I'm doing. All right, I will see y'all here in a hope.
Sister Jenny's had something happen. She's not going to be able to come back. Well,
Yeah, I heard that. So everybody pray for her.
Okay.
She said she had something erupt in her house. So
Sure
who knows what that is. We will be right back after this little bitty Future Retro Nights synthwave, and we'll see you in a whole minute. Probably going to be a little loud. If you're a kitty cat, you need to leave my room. Little rat. Come here. You're leaving. Out. Get out. 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 Get out. Alrighty, we are definitely back. And sorry about that little break, but sometimes they're necessary, particularly when the little four-legged critters want to get up under here and play with your wires. But that happens. Alright, who's next? Somebody key up and let's get this going. We've got probably... we're may not make it the full 2 hours, but we want to share a couple more stories, and I know one of you has something delicious.
Well, I do, I do. But I do want to remind
Hello.
you of one. Can you
We're
hear
here.
me?
Did I lose everybody?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Can't you
I
hear
don't
us?
have my headphones on.
Uh-oh.
Hate it when that happens.
Oh no. Lord, help him find the right thing. Please. You can do it. I know you can. We're cheering for you. Stop.
Yeah, we're here.
You got... You hear us now?
Oh, yeah, that was me. I come in here and automatically assumed I couldn't hear you, and then I looked down and noticed my earphones are laying on the ground, and I didn't have them on.
And we can hear you yelling at your cat.
Well,
Yeah,
she was in here, and that's the one that generally doesn't cause any problems, but I figured that since I was eradicating four-legged creatures, I would go ahead and get rid of all of them, so just to make
Hey,
sure.
you guys.
Yes.
There is a creature that is being shown on 2 programs now that is the best video I've ever seen. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with Inside Edition. Now we're delayed an hour here. I've held it back an hour.
Oh yeah,
It
and
just
those
shows
people
it
do
is
some
on
really
it.
good investigation. They're mainstream TV shows, so come
You
on.
guys have got to catch it. It's got to be on YouTube, I'd say.
Okay.
It is the best. A gray alien with ears, walking weird, skinny. You see it full on. The back of it. Oh, it's amazing.
Oh.
So I
Like a
hope somebody
cryptid?
can
Is
find
that
it.
what it's supposed to be?
It's some kind of little creature. It makes no sense. It's
Okay.
leaving by a house in a driveway, and I'm going to see if I can find it. I've got it recorded as far as on my television.
Yeah, if you can find it, put it in the Watchers newsroom. Everybody would
I will.
go there
Yeah.
and
I'll
see
find
it.
I'll find it
Ladies
on
and
YouTube
gentlemen,
somehow.
this is a very fast ad for Discord. The Watcher Society on Facebook has closed. We are still there, but we're only doing ads for Discord in our radio shows here on TDC Radio Network. I want you to know that the Watcher Society has moved to Discord. If you're not a member, and we've got a 5,000 member society and only 100 members here on Discord. We're really trying to move everyone over, and people that have not joined us yet are really missing out, because when these horrible things come, these bump in the night moments come, and you're not informed and you don't know what's going on, then you're left out to be able to protect your family adequately. So want everyone to be aware of the news. Today there was a helicopter crash into a building very close to Jared Kushner's 666 building. In fact, it was just 3 buildings away. Did you see the address of the building that the helicopter crashed into? It was, pretty
No.
close.
No, I
Pretty
didn't see
close.
that.
Yeah, pretty close. And maybe it was aiming for Kushner's building. I don't know, but it crash landed. There was only a lot of people were really whipped up about it because they only heard the headline, which was helicopter crashes into a New York City building, and people were all freaked out. Oh no, not another 9/11! But apparently, this was a small helicopter, and the only was a pilot in there flying it, and he was only injured. He wasn't killed, that to my knowledge. And the helicopter was pretty beat up, and the roof was pretty damaged. Apparently, there was a little fire, but
Fox News said it was millions of dollars.
yeah, millions. Well, yeah. I mean, the roof of these buildings contain.
I mean the helicopter.
Oh, yeah. Well, these,
Fancy ones.
helicopters, believe it or not, are getting to be more expensive than small airplanes. You'd just be shocked at how many millions of dollars go into these things, and
A lot of gasoline in it.
a lot of
and it was
gasoline.
what,
Yeah,
double,
add fuel.
double tanks or something too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Question mark.
I've got some stories if you want me to get them out, but I do want to remind Glow, honey. Remember when you had a toy or something like my mother? I told you once had toy operating without batteries.
Oh no 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 no. That's just that's a bump in the night thing there. Come on, I got to hear that one.
Come on, Gloria.
Yeah, I got to hear that one. Come on.
Remember.
You
A
don't
toy,
remember?
a toy operating
Well,
without
my mom,
batteries.
she had already moved out of this house, but things would follow her. I'm telling you, she's just atheist, you know. And but she had some little toy that she was just trying to freak her animals out with, let them play with it, right? You know, her dog. But it was, you know, battery operated.
What kind of toy do you know? Do you remember? I mean, was it with a little robot or something, or I imagine a little robot,
like a little puppy. Say it might have barked.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
And
freaky.
it hadn't had batteries for a long time, from what I understand. And one day it just fired up, going to town. You know, and she checked it, no batteries. Flo, is that not bringing anything to memory? I can't remember what you said exactly. But
You were saying
said
that's yours, not
said-
mine.
No, this was Mom's story, but you had told me some last year. That
Man, that's
something
freaky
explained
because
without
there
batteries.
there was a little kid in Westchester, New Hampshire, and I'm not real certain where that's at, but he had one of those little robots, you know, that take 2C batteries. This has been many years ago, back when they would, you know, stand up and walk across the room. You know, little bitty, you know, 8-10 inch toys that required the bigger batteries. And there was a report they had taken a lot of pictures, and it was on a paranormal show on HBO, and I had seen it. The mom had actually went in there with a camera and took pictures of it, and it was walking across the kitchen table, and it had no batteries in it.
Well, they're saying,
you know,
kids' dolls are doing that now, that they're actually coming alive. I've seen a couple of videos. They're coming like they're alive in movies.
Chucky's back. I mean, you know.
Yeah, and there's a new Chucky's out.
Well, you know, to me, I won't even watch any of those Chucky things. I don't watch any of that. I don't like horror.
No.
I don't like Stephen King. He's a Democrat anyway. A liberal. I don't watch any of those things because I don't like clowns. Stephen King turned me off to that forever and ever. I'll never. But you know, when I was a little kid, my aunt and uncle took me to go see at KLRK in Little Rock. Any of y'all that might remember the weatherman who was Bozo the Clown. Do y'all remember Bozo? Anybody remember Bozo?
I do. I remember Bozo.
Okay, well, one day I was sitting in the audience. My aunt sold insurance for a living. She was a big insurance people, but she knew people there in the studio. And I got to, when I was staying with her, sometimes she would take me up to the studio, and all the kids would sit on little benches and be able to watch Bozo the Clown when he was doing his live thing on Channel 7 in Little Rock. And so I was watching him one night, and this was a live performance, and Bozo's nose fell off.
Whoops.
Yeah, it fell off. It fell off on the ground, and dig this. And I never seen anything so freaky in my life. And still today, I'm not sure quite what I seen, but it was really, really freaky. The nose bounced several times across the stage, and it was a good 10 or 12 feet away from him. And then suddenly it bounced all the way back to his hand, and he put it back on his face. And to this very, now I wasn't but 6 or 7 years old, but I'm telling you, that freaked me. I had bad dreams for a week after that. It was like, so your nose can fall off and bounce around on the ground, and you can just pick it up and put it back on. Something ain't fundamentally right with that.
Like it was magnetic, huh?
Yeah, I don't know. That just kind of, I don't, but you know, when you're 6 years old, and who knows, my dreams as a kid could have distorted all that, but I seen it, and so that's what happened.
Well,
Okay,
Well,
come on, somebody.
Something kind of major, unless you want to go ahead next, Glow. If you got something you just can't.
I think we could go all night because there's so many stories here. Come on, ladies. I know y'all are dying.
I don't
My business.
have. I wasn't a personal witness to, but it was really freaky for my husband, and I know the story. It's on a choppy, if you're driving a boat, and let's say the chop is about at least 3-4 inches.
Okay.
Can there ever be basically a circle around the boat that's absolutely calm?
What are you talking about, chopping? What are you saying?
There was a good wind that came across the lake and made it all choppy across the whole lake everywhere you could look.
Yeah.
Except for right around the boat where, like, 6 inches,
Smooth, right?
it was smooth as glass.
Well, you know what that was. I'm gonna tell you right now. I already know what that was. That was an underwater UFO that he got right up underneath the boat, and was doing X-rays of everyone there because they were trying to see who was the best looking person on the boat. We know what happened there.
Well, it was only him.
Yeah, and there was a bunch of swamp gas that day. So you know. Jeez.
Well, I've got to get to my big finale if you want me to. I'm sorry to keep butting in. I can't really hear myself. Sorry.
Well,
Yeah,
okay,
you're butt on in. Come on, Pam. You're not the least voice here. Come on.
Marvel, was that you? You have a big finale. You have. I have a.
Yeah.
You have a bigger one. Maybe mine's more finale.
We got 20 minutes, so y'all split it up and come on.
Go ahead, Marvel.
Pam, you go ahead, sweetie.
Okay, here we go. Well, my husband is from Roswell, New Mexico.
Well,
And
now
we
isn't that a
would
kick
go
in the
there.
pants?
Guess what we would do on summer vacations? Go see the folks, celebrate his birthday, for 4th of July birthday he's got, and well, that's TMI. All right. Now, the aliens, they had an annual alien anniversary there every year, and we'd go to the aliens.
Little alien, right, yeah.
That'd be kind of fun to see.
Everybody knows the story about Roswell, right? About all that.
Oh yes, everybody knows.
Yeah, I mean the farmers. There were people that lived around there, and they were sworn to secrecy. You cannot. And finally, years later, some of them said, "Well, hey, I'm going to die anyway. I'm going to tell you all this story. It doesn't matter, anymore." And so, it finally all came out about the aliens that they had found around there, and that had flown there and landed and.
Yep, did a whole show on it, interview with an alien. That's right.
Yeah, and tell me, why did this stuff all start happening around after World War II? Why did we start hearing about or seeing?
Well,
more
I mean, there's
in
cave
the-
paintings that go back thousands of years that depict UFOs. There's paintings even done by Da Vinci that show UFOs. There's paintings that go back. There's stories that go back to World War One. There's stories in World War Two. But right after Roswell, yes, that big UFO flap over Washington D.C., where over 1 million people seen thousands, not hundreds, thousands of UFOs over our capital. That's saying
Was that like
something.
1,000 points of light that President Bush Sr. would talk about?
Yeah, and I've always wondered about that sentence because everyone that described that event said they were all glowing. So, you're right. Keep on. There's got to be something else to this. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Pam, you weren't done, were you?
Oh, I just know it's during the summer and it's really hot there. I mean, I can't remember everything. There were people selling posters there, and I'm not trying to advertise the place or anything like that or promote it, but yeah, that was interesting that these people were sworn to secrecy. They there were nurses that witnessed this stuff that had.
Oh yeah, yeah. In
Oh,
fact, I've got the testimony of that one nurse that was there at the alien interview. Yeah, I've got her testimony. You're right. You're right.
yeah. So anyway, something I heard. This is a theory. Now you're saying that these are all demons and demonic, but here is what I've kind of heard, and it's along with what you're saying too, that these beings are afraid after the World War II, that they were afraid that we were going to create some havoc on this earth that would destroy everything here and mess up the whole universe and just throw everything into chaos. They don't need things flying into their areas any more than we need things flying into our planet and, making catastrophic
If you look at the end of World War II, we were still in Newton's sixth steep, and angels have up to Newton's 10th steep technology. And I honestly believe that we've been fed technology so that we could recognize theirs as a species, so that the Great Deception could come about. But in that, I would say, nuclear war is horrific. And after the first atom bomb, there are reports, even a report from one of the members of the Enola Gay that said he's seen a UFO follow them to their target. So, it makes you wonder, don't it?
Say again, Mark. What?
I said it makes you wonder, don't it? Well, here we go. I'm sorry, I jerked my earphones out of my ear, and I bumped my nose on my microphone, and that accounted for that noise. I'm sorry. Don't close your eyes and try to sneeze while you're in front of the microphone. Your earphones will fall out and your nose will hit your mic, and you'll sound stupid on the air. Just want you to know that.
So I'll continue on a little bit more. Essentially, these beings, aliens, whatever, they don't care if the human race is gone. They just want the. It's like anybody. Hey, take off the old buildings. I'm good. Leave the land here. We want the land. Get rid of everything else. Clear it out.
Well, that's what happens during the Great War anyway. I mean, it's a massive depopulation event, so they're going to get their wishes anyway. So, yeah, I agree with that.
Well, no, Pam, you do believe they're demons, interdimensional, right? That they're most likely demons.
Look, the Bible only says that 3 of the kinds of angels are humanoid and can materialize. The rest of the angels we don't know that much about. We know there's 7 kinds.
But I mean, they're not from another planet, right? We all.
No, they're from.
No, they're not from another planet.
They're from God's realm.
Yeah.
Right.
They are.
I would say so.
Yeah,
That's my
stop
opinion.
on a dime. That would kill anybody, flesh and blood. They can go through walls. You can call out to Jesus, and they'll disappear like that.
Yep.
Just like that. So they've got to be interdimensional.
Dimensional.
Yeah. Okay.
Hard to say.
I have no idea. I mean, I've read so much about it, so you're probably getting a lot of people straight tonight about just what all this is about.
And if you don't sleep tonight real good and you blame us, send me a letter. I'll gladly send you $19.95 for your night of sleepless sleep, but the check's in the mail. Pam, that's freaky. I'm sorry, but you're right. All these things did start after World War II, at least the large majority of them. And every one of these people that's come forward is, just like you said, sworn to secrecy. And I think that's that in itself is very telling.
Well, I think anything that is sworn to secrecy, the
It's
dark
lying.
thing, yeah, the dark things you cannot know about. You got to shove them under the rug. But the things of the light, you bring to the light and tell everyone.
But that's biblical. That's correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, we've got time for one more, and I'm almost sure that Glow has one. I don't know if it was Marla that had another finish. One of
I'll
y'all.
to finish mine if you want me
Marla.
to. Yeah.
Yeah, Marla,
Well,
come on, Marla.
I don't think I've got time to get through all three, but I'm going to see if I can speed up here. The
Okay.
next thing that happened to Mom here at this house I live in is she had an old hag standing over her. She was in a sleep paralysis. So, Glow, I've had it happen to me too, and I know exactly. I've had both done. I've had it where you
An
cannot
old
move.
hag, such as maybe
Yeah.
a witch or something like that.
Something old woman stood over her. Now she wasn't on her, wasn't on top of Mom, as you'll hear sometimes.
No, no,
But she
no.
couldn't
Wait a
move.
minute. You're saying that hags are women? Just to make
Well,
that
there's a
clear, because
witch or a
I don't want to be accused later of being a hag.
No, they call her the old hag.
Oh, okay.
If you'll
Okay.
look into this, yeah, that's what they call it.
Like-
Mm-hmm.
Like the disguised queen from Disney.
Well,
I
that
don't
the
know, they
Wizard of Oz comes to mind. That evil what
Yeah.
Queen of the East
Yeah.
or whatever.
Well, let me move on then, okay?
Yeah.
So we know a little bit of my story, but the listeners don't. Don't play with Ouija boards, guys. They're
No.
just a
No,
tool
don't do
for
that.
Satan.
They're
Yeah.
bad news.
Yeah, bad news.
Bad, bad, bad. See, Mom had ESP. I had it too, a little bit because of Mom, I suppose.
I had
We think
deja
it's a good
vu all the
idea to
time
get
I was
the-
growing up, so I know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and we would just get a lot of that and unique stories that we were hearing from demons, not God. You know, we didn't have God in our life. To me, he didn't
Mhm.
exist, except for when I was a child. Right, I used to love the Lord, but then I grew out of him because I wasn't in my grandparents' home very often then. Well, anywho, so I had Mom bought me a Ouija board. I was probably 15 or 16.
Oh my
And I
goodness.
believe I got controlled by it.
Mm.
And I let it run me a lot. Me and my friends were playing it constantly. Now, for the life of me, I can't recall some of the things that we were told. Really
Good.
blocked it out. Yeah. But I do know what happened to me, and I blame Luigi. So. I was
It's
not
okay to blame a
at
Ouija
that
board
time.
for anything you want to. In fact, instead of blaming my kitty cats, we can blame that. I mean, I'll blame the Ouija board before anything else. So yeah, that's very freaky because I know personal stories myself about the Ouija board, and they are not. We could do a whole show just on the Ouija boards, and I don't want to dabble. I don't want to. You know, I said at the beginning of the show, I don't want to dabble. I want to battle. So you know.
Yeah. And I tried to warn a nurse when I was having chemo. I heard her in the next, chair over a person while the fighting, saying her and her mom was going to play the Ouija, and I tried to warn her, Witch boards, spirit boards, anybody listening, they're all the same. They're a tool for Satan. You don't want to open that door because we couldn't close it.
Mm.
The spirit world affected both my mom and I 1,000, degrees from what she was getting, what little bit had happened to me. Nothing could compare to what I experienced in my bed awake. And you got to understand, I think it hit me harder because I was actually thinking about God for the first time since I was a child. Did that come in clear? I was losing my throat.
Well, anytime that you have God or Jesus on your mind, you know you're subject to attack because when you do the right thing, you know how that goes. It's funny because it goes back to the parable of the match. Even in the oldest days, this was written about even in King Solomon's diaries. You strike a lamp, and you will see a shadow of the lamp, but you'll never see a shadow of the flame. And so we know
fire.
that light dispels darkness.
Yep.
This is even making me nervous. Just
No, he's got
reliving
you.
it. Oh, I know that. It just trying to get it, reliving it for a moment. I know I did
Yeah.
it the other night. I even said 1,000 degrees when I meant percent. Bear with me, guys. But it was the scariest thing I've ever been through in my life. And I just praise God.
Marla,
I
you need your own show. You really do. You've got the mentality for this. And Glow, I'm telling you what, I'm so happy to have y'all ladies on the show with me tonight, and we do have to kind of wrap this up. But
Fun.
I want to tell you something, Glow, in particular. You have one of the, and I know you sing. I know you do. You've linked that out, and it's obvious. There's no denying that. You do have a spectacular female voice. You're kind of a baritone and whereas my voice kind of sounds like sandpaper against your butt, but I mean, it's I can't sing. I get in the shower and my cats are pawing at the door when I'm in there singing. They're like, "Please shut up! Please shut up! I can't go to the litter box with you singing in the bathtub." And and they'll literally try to beat the door in and when I shut up, they quit pawing at the door. So I know what's going on. It's
And I love Pam's southern voice. I have to hear what
I do too.
sound
Pam's got a very soft, gentle. I mean, very
southern.
very southern. And Marla has got this. Marla's got this funny little
Southern
accent.
belle.
Yeah, this little funny little accent.
My
sounds
Southern
like-
belle.
yeah.
I've never liked my laugh, so I tried. Oh, here I am. Okay.
But it's joyful, dear. It's okay.
Well, I've changed my laugh up over the years. I learned a new laugh, yeah, Well, and I used to sound really, really stupid, but you can learn how to laugh a little different. But really, ladies, y'all are just beautiful, just beautiful. Y'all have graced this show.
Get to hear the climax of what happened, but
Well, come on, climax us out. We got 6 minutes. Come on.
Okay, I was stuck in my bed, you guys, unable to move, wide awake, looking at the moon, knowing that something was holding me down, but I couldn't see it. The bed's moving a little,
Now, wait a minute. Are you awake? Are you awake?
I am wide awake, you guys.
Ooh, now that's freaky. Come on.
No one wants to believe that because sleep paralysis. They want, you were asleep. No, I've had the sleep paralysis. This is different, guys.
Okay, come on.
I'm sorry, but an entity from hell devoured me. It felt like from the head down, or from over my head, and just the loudest, most horrific, demonic growl.
Well, at least he didn't start at your feet. That would have really freaked me out. But with the head, it would have been over a lot quicker. So
as soon as I could think Jesus in my mind, then I could yell it out at the same time.
Yeah.
And it was gone. Just like that.
Yeah.
really,
But
just vanished
Yeah,
after you started calling
10
out to
minutes
Jesus.
had been on. 10 minutes. I had endured that. All right, so I stood up, and I'm freaked out. Mom's on third shift at Cummins Engine Company. I had to call my poor grandparents in the middle of the night, and, come get me. They came, God. But what's stupid, I don't know why or how I went back and played it again, but a similar thing happened to Mom. We figured out it was same time. At 11:30, I was playing it somewhere, and she's having that same experience, except for demons growling. She was hearing all these little imps talking around her. So what did we do? We
Oh,
took it and
now,
we
come
burned
on,
it with my
come on.
grandparents, yes, and they prayed, and we burned that thing. Believe me, it burned. A lot of people say they won't.
Well, those little
Thank
imp
God.
voices. I'm telling you, and we'll just close with this because everyone's most scary movie. Let's just do that. Mine, let me get to mine. Mine was a movie back in the 70s, actually two of them. One was called It Lives Under the Stairs. I don't know if anybody ever seen that. Boy, that movie just freaked me out. The other one was It's Alive. Has anybody ever seen that? That little baby crawls in the milk truck?
No.
Yeah. Oh, man.
There was
When the
no-
baby crawled in the milk truck, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Really? I mean, after that, I wouldn't drink milk for a week. I mean, it's pretty bad. Okay, who's got a scary movie that scared them?
Well, you guys got to let me finish one last thought on this.
Okay, well, come
How
on.
could a mom not
Do it. Come
I gotta interrupt everybody. That's just my nature, so come on.
How could Mom not believe in God after that? I'll say, Mom, you know evil's real and God's real. I don't want to talk about it. She just wants to ignore it.
Really?
So, yeah. she doesn't want to even. She's got her head in the sand. So that's all I want to say. She knows what happened to me. She knows what's happened to her many times.
She,
That I
she's
led
still
up to.
she's still alive. She's still living, and
Yeah, she's
Yep.
77 and mean as all get out.
Now, everybody
Yeah, she's
who listened to Rob's show the other night, and I said this earlier in my show, I was breaking up, but I want you to know that was one of the most powerful shows I'd ever heard because I prayed that prayer as Rob played it. And it has literally changed my life today. There were many doors that closed and many doors that opened today in my own life. And I'm, I'm very grateful for
I
my
was
boss.
sensing evil.
He's
I was
an
sensing
awesome
evil.
gentleman, and he does a wonderful radio show, and he's coming on next, I believe. I can't guarantee that.
hope.
I hope he does. I see he has light on, so maybe he's coming on. But it's One Long Minute, comes on right after the show. And ladies and gentlemen, you really need to hear what he has to say.
Remember, Jesus is the sweetest name we know. Jesus is the sweetest name we know. It's
Amen.
His power, His glory.
It's sweet. It won't give you diabetes either. I mean, I'm telling you.
Nope.
This is not nature sweet. This,
Amen.
yeah, this is the good stuff.
Yeah. We got to do this again, Mars, because I've got more stories.
We will.
Talk about visions and
We've got
dreams,
one
too.
whole minute left, and ladies, I need to say this. Thank y'all for doing this. Due to the miracle of all Rob's internal wiring and being able to hook all these things up the right way, we were able to get everybody on tonight. It's a truly a big miracle, and our station is growing. It's coming together, and I'm tickled to death. I hope to be a small part of this for a long time, and praise God for it.
This is just beginning.
See, even the dog agrees with me. Yeah, y'all heard that, right?
Yeah, heard that.
Sorry.
Loved it, Mars. I thank you for letting me get my story out.
Yeah, well, I probably didn't, but I love you too. I love every one of you.
I jumped in there.
Yeah, I know you did.
jumped in anyway.
I interrupt people, and I expect people to interrupt me. That's just the nature of this thing, and it's what we call radio. But we do the best we can, and I'm not the greatest, I'm not the least, but as long as we're getting out there to that one. Folks, if you're lost and you don't know Jesus Christ, and of course that's not his last name, as Rob's pointed out many times, but if you don't know Jesus, and you better go get you some. You better go get you a big glass, a big tall glass, and you better drink it all down. You better go investigate. You better go find out. You better go search it out. You better go look. You better go read. You better find out. Because our Lord is the King of Kings. This has been the Watcher's Prophecy News with what goes bump in the night and all our precious hosts and ladies tonight. Thank you and good night, everyone. Beep. It's time for Robbie Rob.